أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم نور قلوبنا واشرح صدورنا بنور القرآن والإيمان والإسلام اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we will continue our discussion on miraculousness of Quran from 25th word. And last week, we finished the 8th point of eloquence under the 25th word, second light and second beam. We've been studying different aspects of miraculous exposition or narrations in Quran. And today, inshallah, we will continue with another one. Without much ado, let's start with the 9th point of eloquence, inshallah. It's an interesting one, very interesting indeed, which reminded me some discussions with a friend, not so much discussion, just, exchanging a few the ideas without thinking. So let's see, inshallah. But before starting the text, I don't want to leave it to the end, because at the end everybody escapes before getting any, the warning. We will need moderators for next week and the week after and week after. You realized I've been moderating for quite a few weeks. So the other possible candidates, unfortunately, have some overlapping schedules. Hence, we will need some moderators, inshallah. Okay, with this warning, let's start with the 9th point. This is the kind of interpretation of ayah from Quran. It's the very first ayah of Surah Mujadala, as you can see here. And it's really an interesting way of starting a surah in Quran. Let's read together. Let's listen it first. Let me share the sound. So this is my new style. Instead of reading, I let the professionals read the Arabic. Bismillah.
قد سمع الله قول التي تجادلك في زوجها وتشتكي إلى الله والله يسمع تحاوركما إن الله سميع بصير.
The ending summarized all that we will discuss. Actually, the Inna Allah Sami'un Basir. Surely Allah is all hearing, all seeing. Sami'un Basir. Indeed, Allah has heard the argument of the woman who pleaded with you, O Prophet. O Prophet part, again, just an addition from the interpreter or mufassir. So indeed, Allah has heard the argument of the woman who pleaded with you concerning her husband, and appealed to Allah concerning her husband and appealed to Allah. So the woman appealed to Allah. hence talking to Prophet. Allah has heard your exchange, or Allah heard your dialogue. Surely Allah is all hearing, all seeing. Another translation just says hearing and seeing. So this is the literal translation, right? Sami Basir, hearing and seeing. But because it's about Allah, the first Mufassir chose the option saying that all hearing, all seeing. It's for sure an interesting ayah, especially as a beginning of a surah. So let's start from there. What do you think about such an ayah? Indeed, Allah has heard the argument of the woman who pleaded with you concerning her husband, and appealed to Allah, and Allah has heard your dialogue. Surely Allah is all hearing, all seeing. Any comments about this interesting ayah? Like, just as a reminder, we always thought, at least, we say during our discussions, most of us, that the Quran is a guidance for me. It's the interpretation of the universe. It's a guidance that makes things in my life clearer, more meaningful. And then we see such an ayah. Any comments, any idea? So in a few minutes, Yusuf will take over the moderation. So this is the only time, you have to interact with a real moderator, myself. So use it wisely. So what do you think about this ayah? And Yusuf raises his hand. Go ahead, please, Yusuf.
So yes, I mean, to me, it is heartwarming in a sense to say that somebody is, and apparently there's this emphasis that a woman is pleading with you concerning her husband. So like the person that is being maybe wronged or put in a hard condition is a woman, which like in general is, in terms of strength, like physical strength, weaker than a male. So these are generally the concerns in most societies, if not all. Even today's society, like Western society, quote unquote civilized society, these are the voices that are not being heard. Like nobody hears those voices. Society doesn't hear those voices. But in here, the Creator says, I hear that complaint. So a person complaining about her husband, but interestingly, it's not only complaining to you, but also giving her complaint to the Creator, saying, as if knowing that, or expecting that, or get used to that, the society will turn back to me anyways. So maybe there's this reluctance whether, and if we take it with the Prophet, whether the Prophet will listen to it, or if we take it personally, like a person who is being wronged has this tendency to, like, if it's overwhelming, it's very human to complain to anyone and everyone, yet knowing that they're not going to solve the problem. I mean, this sort of hopelessness. So eventually then turning to the Creator and saying that, oh, my Creator, this is my state. I mean, even complaining to people is not really helping. So they're not hearing me. Even if they hear me, they're not really helping me. Then turning to the Creator and making the same complaint to there. And the Creator says, I hear you. And I value that because here is my response. And then the following verses is dealing with this apparently small conflict between a wife and a husband. And it becomes part of that global speech, like eternal speech, let me put it this way with a correct word. It becomes part of the eternal speech that is now relevant to you and me. Well, it was just a quarrel between two people. This is, I guess, the part that the author is going to emphasize. Like something that is in between two people is going to become a starting point of a conversation. So that I would say, but since you left it to me now, so let's continue with the following a few verses, Brother Birkan, just to see the context of the verse. We saw how it started.
Just one thing, Yusuf. If you are using your computer, not the phone,
Yes.
Okay, then you can request remote access or remote control of my screen, I believe.
I see. Or maybe
from the view something menu, I guess.
30 minutes.
Or you can make the share if you like.
Okay, do you now see my screen? Do you see my screen, people?
Yes, yeah. Now we see. Yes, before I was sharing and I stopped my share, so we can see your screen now.
Okay, good.
Okay, then you are good to go.
Okay, so yeah, since I do not have the technical ability that Brother Birkan has, I'm going to read it with my not so beautiful and professional voice, if you don't mind. So after the first verse, it says, الَّذِي يُظَاهِرُونَ مِنْكُمْ مِنْ نِسَائِهِمْ مَا هُنَّ أُمَّهَاتِهِمْ. Those of you who estrange their wives by equating them with their mothers. مَا هُنَّ أُمَّهَاتِهِمْ. They are not their mothers. In أُمَّهَاتُهُمْ إِلَّا اللَّائِي وَلَدْنَهُمْ. Their mothers are none else but those who gave birth to them. وَإِنَّهُمْ لَيَقُولُونَ مُنْكَرًا مِنَ الْقَوْلِ وَزُورًا. What they say is evil and a blatant lie. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَعَفُوٌّ غَفُورٌ. But God is pardoning and forgiving. وَالَّذِينَ يُظَاهِرُونَ مِنْ نِسَائِهِمْ ثُمَّ يَعُودُونَ لِمَا قَالُوا. Those who estrange their wives by equating them with their mothers and then go back on what they said. فَتَحْرِيرُ رَقَبَةٍ مِنْ قَبْلَ أَنْ يَتَمَاسَّا. Must set free a slave before they may touch one another. تحرير رقبة من قبل أن يتماسا. ذلكم توعظون به. To this you are exhorted. والله بما تعملون خبير. And God is well aware of what you do. And then in the next verse, it's another. Well, let me go again. فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ فَصِيَامُ شَهْرَيْنِ مُتَتَابِعَيْنِ مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ يَتَمَاسَّا. But whoever cannot find the means for freeing a slave, I guess, must fast for 2 consecutive months before they may touch one another. فَمَنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَإِطْعَامُ سِتِّينَ مِسْكِينًا. And if he is unable, then feeding of 60 needy people. ذَلِكَ لِتُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. This is in order that you affirm your faith in God and His Messenger. ذَلِكَ لِتُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَتِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ. These are the ordinances or the boundaries that are set of God. وَلِلْكَافِرِينَ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. The deniers, for deniers, is a painful punishment. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُحَادُّونَ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ كُبِتُوا كَمَا كُبِتَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. Those who oppose God and His Messenger will be subdued. وَقَدْ أَنزَلْنَا آيَاتٍ بَيِّنَاتٍ. As those before them were subdued. وَلِلْكَافِرِينَ عَذَابٌ مُهِينٌ. So for deniers is a demeaning punishment. And then it starts talking about this day of punishment. And then interestingly, it goes like in verse 7, as if it's expanding the topic. أَلَمْ تَرَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ مَا يَكُونُ مِن نَجْوَى ثَلَاثَةٍ إِلَّا هُوَ رَابِعُهُمْ. So do you not realize that God knows everything in the heavens and everything on earth? There is no secret counsel between three, but he is their fourth, nor between five, but he is their sixth, nor less than that, nor more, but he is with them wherever they may be. Then on the day of resurrection, he will inform them of what they did. God has knowledge of everything. So it's interestingly, the chapter started with a conversation between husband and wife, then stated like fixing a problem in there. And in every step, the verses kept ending with Wallahu ala kulli shay'in shaheed, and then Wallahu bima ta'maluna khabir, Inna Allah ghafurur rahim, Inna Allah la'afuvun ghafur, Inna Allah sami'un basir. So as if each verse is making a statement about a specific thing that happens, but then summarizes it with those summary phrases about who the creator is, as if saying that something is happening in life. Yeah, this is what it means. Inna Allah sami'un basir. Something else is happening. Inna Allah la'afuvun ghafur. Then, and eventually gives another example again in terms of quote unquote a secret conversation between people. Somebody is plotting against someone, najwa. So having some secret counsel among people. And it says, do you think the creator is not aware of that? He is even hearing a quarrel between husband and wife. And then you are 2, 3, 4, 5 people counseling secretly to do something bad for somebody else, to the society, to the messenger. Do you think the creator is not going to be aware of that? So it's just expanding the idea, saying again, summarizing, Inna Allah bi kulli shay'in alim, so on and so forth. Just wanted to see how the rest of the chapter is going and what we are building upon. Now, this being said, let's go to today's text. Okay. So the topic that we are going to study about is, it sometimes happens that the all-wise Quran mentions certain particular aims. Then in order to impel the mind by means of them, confirms, establishes, verifies, and proves the aims through the divine names, which are like universal rules. For example, God has indeed heard the statement of the woman who pleads with you concerning her husband and carries her complaint to God. And God always hears the arguments between both sides among you. For God is all hearing, all seeing. Here the Quran is saying Almighty God is absolutely all hearing. He hears everything, even through the divine name of truth, Al-Haq. A wife arguing with you and complaining about her husband, a truly insignificant matter. I guess insignificant in here relates to, in the larger scale of events, like two-person quarreling is not really that much of an important thing if you think about like stars dying and becoming black holes or climate change and whatever. So just two-person quarreling, complaining each other, or one complaining about the other, is being heard by the Creator. And since woman manifests the subtlest manifestations of mercy and are minds of self-sacrifice and compassion, He, the Creator, hears through the name of the most compassionate the rightful claim of a woman and her complaint to Him, and through the name of truth takes it seriously, affording it the greatest importance. Thus, in order to make this particular aim universal, particular aim, I guess here refers to hearing two people's conversation. This is the particular point that's being made here. To make it universal, one outside the sphere of contingency of the universe who hears and sees a minor incident among creatures must of necessity hear and see all things. And one who is sustainer of the universe of necessity sees the suffering of insignificant creatures within the universe who are wronged and hears their cries. One who does not see their suffering and does not hear their cries for help cannot be the sustainer. One who does not see their suffering and does not hear their cries for help cannot be the sustainer, in which case it establishes two mighty truths with the phrase, for God is all hearing, all seeing. So this is the text for today, and then it continues with another example. So let me stop here as I was making comments while reading. What is your take from the verses and the author's explanation here? Okay. Yes, Brother Birkan.
Jazakallah khairan for beautiful reading and comments, of course. So one thing which struck my attention is that the woman, like if we take it, if we read this ayah in its obvious meaning, let's say, the first meaning, which is speaking to the prophet, when the ayah says, who pleads with you, this you is referring to prophet, the first addressee of the ayah. When we take it from that angle, it's like the ayah is telling prophet that the God heard what happened between you and the woman. So from there we can understand that the woman was, even with such as let's say personal matter. So what you have with your husband or what you have with your, I don't know, friends, your family, it's the definition of the personal life, right? So such a personal matter is discussed with the prophet. It means the woman was taking the prophet and prophethood, I can't remember the word, but anyway, the title that he represents, the prophet represents, she's taking it very seriously. She's taking it as, you know, he's the prophet and he's there to teach me how to act properly, or how to, let's say, not in an, you know, social norm perspective, but rather how to be a believer and how to manifest this belief in my daily actions. So my personal life with my husband, she was thinking possibly, that is a matter of belief, just like everything else. So the way I act and the way my husband acts must be compliant with the belief that we have. And then, you know, pleading with the prophet, discussing with the prophet, asking his advice, or maybe asking him to do something. Doesn't matter. To me, what is important is that the woman is taking prophet as the mentor, as the guide, as the one who would tell them what is right, what is wrong. how to act, how not to act, and so on. This is, to me, it's really important, even with the, very insignificant, or for you, probably it's very significant, but from the, let's say, God's perspective, whatever it means, it seems like very insignificant. But even with this very specific detail of your life, you say, okay, I should advise to my prophet, not to, your mother or your husband's mother or the elder of the village, or the marriage counselor, to the prophet. To me, this is really important. And also another thing, maybe, it is not, at least to me, when I read these ayah, the scenery is not like the woman goes to prophet and then prophet talks to God, and then God and prophet discuss something, and then, prophet comes back and tell woman that, oh yeah, we discussed and this is the decision. This is not the case. But rather, the God is already there with woman. And this ayah tells it. This ayah says that when you were discussing this matter, I was there, seeing and hearing. So I am with the woman, I am with the person all the time. But still, they should come and speak to you, because you are the humanly manifestation of the communicating with the God. You are the human manifestation of acting according to belief. So that's, significantly different than, the imagery that we have with certain religions or certain maybe sects of Islam as well, that the prophet is an appointed person to carry messages to God, and this is not the case. The God is already with you there, seeing and hearing everything about you. The reason you approach prophet is not that you don't have access to God, or God doesn't, know about you. You access to prophet, you plead to prophet because this is the practical manifestation of your belief. You acknowledge that the prophet is there to guide me as a human model. Jazakallah khairan.
Thank you. So, yeah, so it looks like a modern idea of, I don't know how modern it is though, that religion and like life, worldly life, being two separate entities can be put into question by that as well, because I'm expecting the creator to appoint someone who is going, like, first of all, creator should be dealing with my life, every moment of my life. So it's not like there are things that are sphere of me, mine, and my own dealings. And then there is another aspect of my life which looks to the creator. So for the things that I do by myself, I handle it by myself or with my friends and society. For the others, I talk to God. It's not like that. But for anything, like anything personal, particular in my life, I'm expecting my creator to hear me. I'm expecting my creator to handle the case. And then prophets, like, maybe this is going to be a longer discussion, but prophets being the, if you like, vicegerent and the exemplar that represents what my creator wants from me, should be dealing with that. So this is why I would come and talk to the prophet. So this is being exemplified in here, as you said. So In general, I guess another point that the author is, while waiting for you to talk, those particular events being taken as an opportunity to pinpoint an important rule, a universal rule, which is the creator is hearing that, or the one who is all hearing must be hearing that. The one who creates the heavens and the earth must also hear that, and he does, is the point that is being made in here. So from one end, I guess I need to keep in mind that when I'm feeling so down, helpless, the one who hears the shouting of my belly, like my stomach, and as it's asking for food when I'm hungry, and responding to that by creating all the foods, or shouting of my cells for oxygen, and provides or responds to that cry of my cells for oxygen with the oxygen that he keeps creating, he is hearing that as well. Then I am being wronged by, let's say, someone from work environment, or the society is oppressing me, whatever condition I find myself in, or even I find that death is oppressing me. So then I'm going to turn to that all hearing and all seeing one, because I see that he is hearing and he is seeing all these particular and tiny cries. The whole universe is crying or asking with their own tongues, and they are being responded. Because if you think about it, everybody has their own problems. Like, is there anyone who is problem free? So there's a reason. And if you, when you say, of course, how are you doing? Everybody says, yeah, good, how are you? But if you sit together for a few more minutes and ask seriously, how are you doing? Then, I mean, depending on how fast you can break the ice, everybody has something to complain about. I have things to complain about. So as if the creator is saying that I am the all seeing, all hearing. So you also cry to me. See, I heard the cries of that lady. I hear all of you in this sense. And this is the correct address to talk to. Okay. Yes, Sister Aisha, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. I think you and Brother Birkan have pretty much said anything that I've wanted to say, or put to words things that I've been thinking about. But I just, just one, I guess, additional comment is that I think this verse is such a great example of the very fact that this speech is meant for the mundane aspects of my life, right? Seemingly mundane. That its very particularity reminds me that this speech is particularly for me and for the particular experiences that I undergo. And just even being like the first verse of the chapter, right? Of the surah, I think it's just a great reminder that this speech is meant to address me and my concerns, which are arguments or troubles or complaints that I have, rather than things on a cosmic scale of stars exploding or otherwise. I mean, these are the things that that I deal with every day. And I guess, as Brother Burkan was saying, these are the things in which I feel the need to also seek guidance in every day, and seek prophetic guidance in every day as well. So I just think this verse really manifests the purpose of the Quran for me.
And is there any comment about the rest of the verses? Because also while we are studying this 25th word, the author is telling us how he is reading Quran. Like one way to take this is he sees this as a miraculous aspect of Quran. The way that Quran is talking about something specific and summarizing with the, actually in general, as we are studying the second beam, like 25th word, second beam consists of 10 points, and each one of them is talking about how Quran is ending with divine names. So the verses are ending with divine names. The author finds 10 different points as he reads them. And he says that Quran is miraculously concluding the verses. And in them, he is not simply saying, well, this is Quran style, it just ends with that. He says, no, Quran is aiming for 10 different things. At least this is how much he was able to identify, the author was able to identify, that this is what it points to actually in here. So if I learn that pattern, how Quran is using that, I can apply it to the rest of the Quran. And also I can apply it to the creation. When I see some specifics in the creation, then I can say, oh yeah, this, actually today, a friend of mine before the discussion just texted me saying that inshallah soon they are going to have a baby. Today they attended the ultrasound, and when see the ultrasound screen, all he was able to say was La ilaha illallah. Like you are observing some real life scene and you're saying that, well, this means La ilaha illallah. So this is a good example of how you would summarize life by divine names. Brother Birkan, please go ahead.
Oh, so I have one question, but before doing sharing this question, maybe I should try to answer your question about the rest of the ayahs that we read. As you said, we see very similar pattern with the with other ayahs as well, the second, third, and so on, in which he talks about some details about, for instance, divorcing or maybe remarrying. And all these details, and the end of the ayahs are always concluding with these names, different names of God, Allah. Allah is truly ever pardoning, all forgiving. Allah is all aware of what you do, and so on. And so we see this pattern there as well, talking about these details in my life, and then showing how these minute details are actually related to a bigger picture, bigger truth, universal truth behind them. That's one thing. The second thing is still talking about all these detailed things, which gives me an impression that the belief is not only about, believing in certain concepts as, check marks, like, do you believe in angels? Yes, I do believe in angels. Do you believe in prophets? Yes, I do in prophets. I do believe in prophets, and so on and so forth. And believing in prophets, for instance, may mean, very simplistically, may mean that there have been some prophets. Yes, I do believe so far, for instance, right? So you don't have to mean something more than that when you say, I believe in prophets, or I believe in God. When you say, it doesn't need to be anything more than, oh yes, I believe that there is a God who created everything, and then whatever, doesn't matter. So the belief in God may mean many things. Belief in prophets or belief in angels may mean many things. You may, for instance, believe in mystical creatures with wings which are invisible, and you call them angels, and you say, I never see them. There might be some people seeing them, but I don't see them, but still I believe in them because I have some reasons. And then you can stop there. But Quran with such ayahs tells me, I think, that the things that you think you believe, actually you can test them with every details of your life. So if your belief in Prophet or belief in God is not reflected in every relationship you have, then maybe you're not believing in the thing that I, as your creator speaking in Quran, want you to believe. So let me stop here. I may continue later, inshallah.
Inshallah, we are waiting for you to continue later on. Okay. So yes, and Brother Birkan was okay. So Brother Birkan was mentioning verse number 4 as it's ذَلِكَ لِتُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. This is in order that you affirm your faith in God and His Messenger. So something in life, and like I was looking for the historical context in which this verse was revealed, because since there's this technical term is being used, يُظَاهِرُونَ مِنْكُمْ, sorry, not this one. Yeah, الذين يظاهرون منكم. Yeah, what is ظهار? This is what I was looking for. It is. It says it used to be a tradition in the Arabs in the day of Jahiliyyah, the ignorance, and with that, man used to say that to me you are like my mother, to the wife. Man says this, and then violates the marriage with that. So here this is being prohibited. So some practical aspects from daily life. But while doing that, so saying that this is not a good habit, as if you are insulting your wife and simply you're lying, it says, at the end, the topic is being tied to ذَلِكَ لِتُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. So there are as if these set of things that are supposed to be done, that should be done. Oh, just a second. A little one fell. Sorry about that. So these rules are being brought, but what's the outcome of that? As if new regulations are being brought, old regulations are being saying that this is not correct. Well, what's the point of that? Why do you put such a limitation? At the end, it says, ذَلِكَ لِتُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Like this, some day-to-day activities being put into order by the Creator, and me following these, if you like, regulation, is being shown as an opportunity and as a sign to affirm my faith in God and in His Messenger. This is really interesting because like faith and day-to-day life and regulation, because it might even be thought that, well, regulations are just like the, shell. The truth is really the meaning inside it, one might say. But in here it is saying that it's not a shell which you throw away, because with that, you are going to affirm your faith in God and in his messenger. So, and not only faith in God is being affirmed by that, but also faith in messenger is being affirmed by that. So a lot of interesting things are going on in that as well. The way those life being regulated by the Creator through the example of his messenger, and me abiding by these becoming how I affirm, or actually how I do believe. لِتُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. I mean, in the translation, it says to affirm your faith, but it's not simply affirming it verbally or action by action, but لِتُؤْمِنُوا, so that you believe in Allah and in the messenger, as if acting upon as such is becoming a unit of faith in a sense. Okay, so is there any further comments? If not, I'm going to continue with the next example. I know Brother Birkan was going to make a comment, but probably he is not available yet. So if there's no other comments, I go and read the next example. Okay. So let's first grab this verse. This is another beginning verse from Surah Al-Isra. سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله لنريه من آياتنا إنه هو السميع البصير. Glory to him who journeyed his servant by night from the sacred mosque to the farthest mosque, whose presence we have blessed, whose surroundings we have blessed, in order to show him of our wonders. He is the listener, the beholder. Yeah. So this is the chapter Al-Isra, the night journey. And the first verse refers to the Mi'raj, Isra, of the messenger. But then beginning on with the second verse, third verse, as if the topic is totally switching, which is interesting in and of itself. Let's read the author's take from here. Here, after mentioning the noble messenger's peace and blessings be upon him, journey from the sacred mosque in Mecca to the farthest mosque in Jerusalem, Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa, which was the start of his ascension, the Quran says, for he is indeed all-hearing, all-seeing. The pronoun he refers to either Almighty God or to the prophets. If it refers to the prophet, it is like this. There was within this particular journey, like the journey of the messenger, a particular journey. It's a certain human being's journey, so it's particular. There was within this particular journey a general journey and universal ascension, during which, as far as the farthest lot tree, Sidratul Muntaha, and the distance of two bowstrings, Qab Qawsayn, he heard and saw the dominical signs and wonders of divine art, which were apparent to his eyes and ears in the universal degrees of the divine names. I'm going to read it once and then we'll come back. It's a little bit of a loaded text. It shows that that particular and insignificant journey, and again in translation it's called as insignificant, but in the original text it uses juz'i. Juz'i means minute or part of the whole. So it's small. So it's not the whole thing, but it's a part of a much, much larger picture. So it shows that particular and juz'i journey, small journey, was like a key to a journey which was universal and an assembly of wonders. If the pronoun refers to Almighty God, it is like this. He invited one of his servants to journey to his presence, and in order to entrust him with a duty, sent him from the sacred mosque to the farthest mosque, where he caused him to meet with the prophets who were gathered there. Then, after showing that he was the absolute heir to the principles of all their religions, conveyed him through his realms in their inner and outer aspects as far as the distance of the 2 bow length. He was certainly a servant, like again, he here refers to the messenger. He was certainly a servant, and he journeyed on an ascension that was particular, but he held a trust that was related to the whole universe. He held a trust that was related to the whole universe, and a light which would change the universe's color. Since he had with him a key to open the doors of eternal happiness. So 3 things he mentioned in here. He held a trust that was related to the whole universe, a light which would change the universe's color, and a key to open the doors of eternal happiness. Almighty God described this being with the attributes of hearing and seeing all things. For in this way, he could demonstrate the world-embracing purposes and instances of wisdom of the trust, the light, and the key. I guess we need to split this into pieces. The text is a little bit tough. So inshallah, let's go back. So anyone who wants to make any comments before we dive into it about the verse, about the author's take from the verse? Here is the verse again, Surah Al-Isra. Because immediately right after this verse comes, we gave Moses the book and made it a guide for the children of Israel. Take none for protector other than me. Then talks about Noah. And it goes on like that. Yes, waiting for your comments, inshallah. Let's first talk about the verse. Yati, please go ahead.
Well, I guess the verse talks about, maybe more directly, it alludes to the prophet's night journey. And I guess maybe if I'm talking about maybe how this might refer to my own experiences, it might refer to the journey of my very short life, where, you know, my life has traversed in certain ways and directions, and that it's in order for, you know, it's God showing me various signs and things, and he's involved, and he's all hearing and seeing, and is planning every little thing out.
Yeah, this is how I'm going to read it by putting myself in here. But also it's interesting how the author is reading it, because in our discussions, we keep saying that I need to read this verse as it's speaking to me here and now, as Atik was also suggesting to do, how I am journeying in my life. But author in here refers to the messenger, right? Actually, the method that we are trying to follow in the discussions is what we learned from this author. And the same author is reading this verse as the verse is talking about the journey of the messenger. So let's also put that under our radar for today. So to what extent am I going to read the verses as it is being addressed to the messenger, and what am I supposed to get out of that? Because in there we are taking historical context into perspective to a certain extent, right? We are considering the first addressee of the Quran and how this verse relates to that first addressee. And then I'm going to extrapolate on that understanding and apply it to myself also. So is this historical reading? I mean, Quran had been read by Prophet, had been read by people of all the centuries, and all those meanings were valid meanings. As it applied to them, it also applies to me. So benefiting from the understanding of those certain contexts is also a very valuable understanding. This is what I understand from it. And the way now the author reads it is, he is mentioning the noble messenger's journey from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa, which was the start of his ascension. Now we can ask the question, of course, why was Masjid al-Aqsa was the starting of his ascension? Like, why is Prophet's ascension starting from Masjid al-Aqsa? And actually, author is alluding to that here. Let me see. Was it in the next page? I'm trying to see. Okay, I couldn't find it. Sorry about that. Yeah, I was looking for something, but I couldn't see it. Brother Birkan came to my rescue. Please go ahead, Brother Birkan.
Assalamu alaikum. Sorry for not being here before. But I was definitely listening. So with this ayah as well, I guess there's one thing which is common with the previous one that we studied, is from particular to universal. Meaning any example given in Quran is actually there to make us a connection with a universal truth, and from that coming back to our lives again. So from particular to universal, from universal to particular, and completing the circle. The first particular is the particular event happened in a certain time between certain people whom we possibly don't even know, or we at least heard. In case of Prophet, we have more detailed narrations, but still it's someone else, right? And then from someone else's life, a very details of someone else's life, we reach to a universal truth about the Creator. So it's always about Creator. It's never about the people who are mentioned here. Even with the Prophet, it's all about the Creator and how Prophet is sent by the Creator, and how following Prophet we actually please the Creator, our Lord, our Rabb. So it's always about the Rabb, the universal. And now from this universal, we read Quran in a way that it is actually about us now. So about my particular life, about the details of my life. Again, from particular to universal, from universal to particular. And the second thing, which is also related to this, you can take the other way around and say that everything happening in your life, no matter how significant it seems, it is always about a universal truth. Your child makes you annoyed that day because, let's say, she's not sleeping, just hypothetically speaking, or she's not eating, another hypothetical situation, never true. And you are annoyed. You are so angry. And you think it's about between you and it's about, your child and yourself. It's between you and your child. But as Ayah was saying, the second or the third Ayah we read after this, the first Ayah, is that there is no tree of which the fourth is Allah. There is no fourth of which the fifth is Allah, and so on. And then it was saying it's the same with lower or the higher numbers. So every situation in your life, even this annoying moment between you and your child, Allah is there with you. And it is actually about you and your God, your Lord. Everything about you, everything you live, everything you experience, it's always about you and your Lord. So don't take them as the regular, the things in my life, ordinary things in my life. Oh, Birkan, how this is relevant to religion, how this is relevant to belief. It's just, my relationship with my friend. It is expected that, the children behave that way or this way. There's nothing surprising there. It's just an ordinary part of my life. Quran says, no, there's no ordinary part of your life. Every part of your life, I am there. You are somehow seeing my names there. So take it that way, take it serious. Jazakallah khairan.
Yes, and it's talking about that specific journey. But if you think about that journey, like Prophet's journey, yes, it's a single person's journey. But that journey is such an important journey that, so for instance, Nursi's writings are Nursi's journey. And he's sharing his journey with us, right? So you can say, well, this is one man's journey. Yeah, to a certain extent, it's important and it might apply to me partially and I might benefit from it. So Prophet's journey is just another journey, another man's journey. But the Creator is saying that, first of all, it's a journey that I take that person through. This is a very important point, as Brother Birkan was also highlighting. So the Creator says, I took him to that journey, which I should also ask, do I take my journeys individually or do my Creator take me to journeys to the truth? Like, am I going to find my truth or my Creator takes me to a journey of truth? We should question that for ourselves, because if my Creator is taking me to truth in the journey, I would be thankful and like glorifying the Creator at every step. If I am doing this journey by myself, at every step which I consider to be taking me closer to truth, I would glorify myself, which is a very important distinction. The Creator here says, glory be to God who did take his servant on that journey. So it's a fine point. And then in the next page, the part that I was looking for was in the next page actually. Why is that starting from Masjidul Haram to Masjidul Aqsa, Barakna hawlahu, is another emphasized in the verse, around which we sanctified. or be blessed. So Masjid al-Aqsa is being mentioned as, the farthest mosque is being mentioned as around which we blessed. So why? Why is that this mention of Masjid al-Aqsa here? So in that specific journey, Prophet started his journey from Masjid al-Aqsa, which is a location in Quran as being mentioned as many of the prophets were sent to there. So actually he is starting his journey from where prophets has stepped their foot on. So prophets, if you like, vertical ascension is starting from where prophets standard before. And the Creator is saying that I took that person to the journey, as if implying that I took several of my servants before in the same journey, and all of them stepped on the same location. They were all my servants. Because why is that important? Why am I mumbling those words? There's this other alternative, although I might be going a little bit off topic here. The other alternative is I follow the footprints of people who think that they find truth by themselves. I might also be thinking that I'm going to find truth by myself. And in our discussions, this is generally and repetitively being mentioned as the path of philosophers. A philosopher would say that I find truth, or collectively as humans, we find truth. But here the verse is mentioning, the Creator is saying that I take you on that journey as long as you are my abd. You realize your abdness. You realize that once you rely on me, or you don't have anything else to rely on, with that realization, your journey will start, and your journey should go through the path that I took your priors through, messengers through. Your journey should start from there. And then in all these, as if the Creator is saying that I am seeing and I am hearing. So the one who takes you to that journey must be the one who is all hearing and all seeing. Because if you are with your limited sight and limited hearing, meaning your limited knowledge, you're trying to find the truth. How are you going to do that? As if you're an ant lost in a wide farm, like a wide farm of, I don't know, corn. Like, how are you going to find your way out of this farm? Your sight is very limited and tiny. Your hearing is very limited and tiny. And you are still saying that, no, I can see, I can hear, therefore I'm going to find my own path out of this very dense farm of corn or wheat, whatever. So this is another thing that this verse is reminding me of, and saying that the one who takes you from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa, all the way to Kaaba Qawsain, like to the place where in here it's not being mentioned, but maybe I should stop and ask your ideas about that. I told already too much. Maybe I already have lost you there. So any comments, please? Yes, Mohammed Said.
Assalamu alaikum. In the text that you read, by the way, thank you very much for all the comments. Alhamdulillah, I benefited from your comments. What got my attention is the emphasis on the divine names. It's calling me. I should kind of decline it at this moment. Divine names. What the author's emphasis on the divine names from as his understanding from this verse got my attention, and the way he emphasizes like this journey is towards the divine names. And what is divine names? I kind of find myself with this question. Okay, the names of God, but how am I finding myself, or how can I define it really in my practical life? What is it that when I what is it? What kind of situation I find myself with that I can define as I am looking for divine names? Benefiting from, I heard from probably you guys or from somewhere else, I don't remember at this moment, but like the perfection, the in me as I am built, I have this search, this yearning for perfection. Maybe by referring to the verse that was studied before this one, the woman comes to the messenger, as the verse, when we read the verse in let's say literal meaning, what she was looking for. I kind of find myself connected with her as a person who's looking for perfection, or who's already aware of that she's looking for perfection, but she doesn't know how to find it. That's why she goes to the prophet. That's why she goes to the messenger of God, so that she can find a way to be connected with the perfection, because she cannot do it. She knows it. And I find, it's my story as well as a human being. So coming back to this point here, the feeling that I got from these verses, like very, let's say insignificant, very, very small, as you said, just very small experiences, liking or disliking. These are all referred in these explanation of these verses as the tip of the divine names. Disliking is actually, I am looking for perfection. And the way that the author is author's understanding of the journey of the messenger, it means he was yearning for perfection, and he was taken to the names, divine names. I think that's a very important point for me, to be aware of what I am yearning for, so that I can take the example. I can relate myself to, maybe I can really genuinely feel the need for a guidance to reach, to be taken to the perfection, the source of the perfection. And not only like perfection, but universal. It's the author ended this paragraph by saying that to his eyes and ears in the universal degrees of the divine names. That's also a very important emphasis for me to see, that my yearning for truth, my yearning for compassion is because my maker is compassionate. That's why I am feeling the need of compassion, or I am, let's say, able to differentiate what is not compassionate and what is compassionate. And that feeling is the result of my creator being with me. My creator is calling me to himself as the perfect one, as the perfect source of truth and perfect source of compassion. And then from there, I can universalize it as the continuation, the next step of my journey, that everybody and everything is the result of his compassion. Every true action, every compassionate action is the outcome of my creator's compassion. I think I just wanted to kind of as an example. I'm not sure if my understanding is correct or not, but this might be the way of the path of following the Quran's message, or the way that the messenger is taken to the journey as a journey to universalize the divine names in his journey. Thank you.
Jazakallah khairan. And actually, yes, this realization of arriving to universal and divine names makes this journey universal and not a personal, individual journey. And this is how that journey becomes relevant to me as well. Otherwise, I would say, well, this is understanding of that person, that messenger. I mean, he was a person at the end of the day, so it's particular to him. But as if this verse is also highlighting that, no, this journey, as it concludes with divine names, it is relevant and applicable to every individual. And in a sense, actually today's khutbah was also about that. When I was in Jummah, since it is the month of Rabi'ul Awwal, the birth of the messenger, Khatib was talking about messenger himself and referring to the verse, Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu ni'mati. So in there, actually, he was talking about this akmaltu lakum dinakum, the perfecting the religion, and then completing my bounties, atmamtu. And he was talking about the difference between perfection and completeness. And similar to what Muhammad Said was sharing. So he was alluding to the point that the messenger is the perfect human. Al-insan al-kamil at-tamma, he used, this was the terminology he said that is being given when describing the messenger by the sages and the saints over centuries. So that journey of that particular person is not just another journey, but there is this special aspect of this person as well, that the creator is now saying that among his creation, specifically that servant's journey was as if now the creator is saying that I took him to this journey from beginning to its end. And as the author now here mentioning that he saw everything, I showed him everything, I made him hear everything, and this journey was not detached from what you are experiencing. His journey had been with what he normally interacts with the existence by the sight, by the eyes, and I made him see everything. I showed him everything. I made him hear everything. And then all the conclusions that he arrived to, I taught him, but through this experience. Now, if I take it as Atiq was taking, now why is my creator telling me that? So the creator is saying that, not because the author says we can read it for the prophet as he refers to, or for the creator. The creator says, I am also the all-seeing and all-hearing one. I am aware of everything in this existence, and I am the teacher of that student now. The servant is that student. And now reading it as Atiq did. So you, Yusuf, you, Atiq, you are in this school of existence as well. Who are you going to learn it from? The teacher, or being the creator, all-seeing, all-hearing creator, taught to his servant, Prophet ﷺ, by making him see and hear the creation and arrive to the conclusions of divine names. These are your teachers of truth, if you are really interested in answering your questions in this existence. But this is why that apparently particular journey was actually such a central theme of this existence. This is why the verse is concluding with, he is indeed all hearing and all seeing. So please, any other comments as we are coming to the end of our discussion for today? I mean, this topic is, of course, a very beautiful topic, very dear topic to me. This part, for example, the author was mentioning in this particular journey, a general journey exists and a universal ascension during which, as far as the farthest lote tree and distance of 2 bowstrings, he heard and saw the dominical signs and wonders of divine art, which were apparent to his eyes and ears in the universal degrees of the divine names. And these are very important, fine points. And it's also, to me, giving very beautiful examples of how to read the Quran. Because Sidratul Muntaha and Qab Qawsayn are the terms that are passing in Surah Al-Najm. But the author is mentioning these when talking about Surah Al-Isra. So he is also making a very beautiful and interesting cross-reading of the Quran. So giving us lessons about how to read Quran. But aside from that, let me hear from you, inshallah, before we close for the day. Okay, so it looks like no comments. So inshallah, for next week, we have a volunteer for moderation. Excited to hear other voices. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.